Hello and welcome back to me pretending I'm a game designer to make an Hololive fighting game in my head. Okay, so today I will talk about the content of our fighting game. There is a lot that makes up the content of a fighting game. To not seem bare bones, a fighting game needs to have a variety of possibility to play with. Especially nowadays, you cannot just release a game with only one versus mode and nothing else anymore. So let's see what we can offer to Hololive fans that want to beat up people with their Oshi. Let's get serious!
Say it really cute so that people will forgive you.
ボコボコにするぞ。
Something that modern fighting games have neglected for too long is solo content. From a lack of an arcade mode to no story at all, it was honestly one of the biggest weaknesses of fighting games for the longest time. Nowadays it seems like the developers are trying their best to correct that trajectory. Our Hololive fighting game will obviously take that path. Let's start with what I think is the absolute minimum in terms of solo fighting game content. Any fighting game should have at least an arcade mode, a story mode, and a third original, unique and fun mode. Let's go in order. First, we have arcade. This mode doesn't even need an introduction. The arcade mode was for the longest time the standard in fighting games. But now that arcades are almost dead, developer thinks it's okay to cut corners or even skip it entirely. One thing the arcade mode of our ideal Hololive fighting game will have is a character specific opening and ending for every character. The stories will not be linked to the story mode at all, it will just be some kind of independent fun, a silly or crazy one-off adventure for all the Holomen. The advantage of the Hololive talents is that they represent multiple things, characters, streamers and persons. You can use that to explore multiple facets of their stories. Other than this, it will be a pretty traditional arcade mode with just the possibility of selecting the route you want to follow and which opponent you want to fight. It might be fun to insert a way to get a good hand, bad hand system depending on the choices you made, but that'd be the only original thing about that mode. Now to the story mode. I know it might be controversial, but what I see for the skeleton of this game is a story like Guilty Gear story mode, which is a linear story and is essentially halfway between a VN and an anime movie. Hololive has a big history with visual novels and it would just make sense to go with that. But, and this is a huge but, it needs to include fights built on top of it to make the experience feel more interactive. So a bit more like NRS games in execution, but maintaining the whole VN anime focus. I'm also a big fan of fights against enemies that are not playable and are just made for a single player mode. It helps give some room for the writing without having to find a convoluted reason for the characters to fight against each other. And it also makes the experience more unique. And also, now a point I need to clarify. The perfect Hololive fighting game would use 3D models despite being a 2D fighting game. This point is important because when the players will play the story mode, I want them to feel like they're watching an elaborate hologram. Not as in the same nonsensical writing, but from a visual perspective, and possibly customizable by dressing up the talents differently with the outfits you unlocked. Speaking of outfits, finishing the story mode once will unlock the New Year outfit for every talent. If any of the talents in the game don't have one, a special one will be made in-game for them. As for the story itself, I unfortunately don't have a full fanfic that would fit a fighting game at the ready, but I do know who I want to see as the antagonist. Omega Alpha. He has such a good design, but unfortunately cover didn't do much with them. She could have been the equivalent of 8chan, but even her Twitter stopped being active like it used to be. In any case, making Omega the last boss fight for Hollow Man would make sense considering its mysterious nature and overall lore. Let's move on to the special mode that is used for fun. To give you a few modern examples, it's Tower mode plus the crypt in MK11, it's GBVS's RPG mode, etc. One of the most memorable memories of playing fighting game alone was beating to completion Soul Calibur's solo content, things like Weapon Master, Chronicle of the Sword, and playing the adventure mode of Smash Melee over and over. Those kinds of modes are very important. In my opinion, they need to offer two things: be fun and have significant unlockables locked behind them. How many times I didn't even bother with actually really good alternative modes like Exert Moms or Dark Abyss in Blaze Blue. This also leads me to the fact that there is actually a third point. So yes, I lied. The game needs to have some kind of alternative genre. It can't just be a series of straight up match like arcade or survival. If you noticed, the majority of the most memorable modes I named tried to do something else entirely with the gameplay. Most of them added a beat them up twist, or others added a RPG element or some kind of strategy twist and put fights in the middle of all of this. So in a sense, the focus of the gameplay isn't just the fighting anymore. This is why our perfect fighting game side mode will be a simulation game. Well, not really, but let me explain. In the game mode I envisage, the talent you're playing is in streamer mode. You will need to build a streaming schedule as you decide what you want to stream. A bit like how you can build your own schedule in Persona game, for example. Depending on the activity or game you picked, you will fight someone under conditions corresponding to the activity, but you could also play a minigame. Fighting games need more minigames. Every talent has a different pool of activities to reflect what their actual streaming overall looks like. This is also why each talent has at least one unique minigame. At the end of each stream, you'll get a streaming score. This score will obviously be affected by how well you performed during the stream and how entertaining you were. You can get streaming achievements for doing specific actions during the fight or the minigame. Something very similar to Hold Smash's unique bonuses. As you beat streams, you'll get buffs in accordance to your streaming style. For example, if you beat a lot of FPS playing streams, your projectiles will get stronger. So on this principle, you'll have to stream for a month, which will lead you to the talent's anniversary, during which the talent will perform on scene. As let's not forget, Hollow Men are also idols and not only comedians. After finishing the mode, you'll get an idol costume for the talent you played as. Once you're done with your first run, you'll unlock the month leading to the talent's birthday this time. This month acts as hard mode. In this mode, the minigames and the fights will be more challenging, and if you can keep a high enough streaming score, you'll get a game over. By playing it, you can get multiple rewards like a talent-specific UI based on the talent's streaming overlay, emotes for super chat, their background for your room, a second theme song, a second cinematic for their 3-bar super, and a new outfit, and a lot of lesser rewards. All of this is based on your cumulative streaming score that carries between runs and for completing specific achievements. Now let's talk about other offline modes. Of course, you'll have versus. I have a lot to say about this, but since it's tied to online, let's keep it at that for now. Now we have the tutorial, and I'ma be real with y'all, I have no idea how to make a good fighting game tutorial. Over the years, I've seen a lot of devs trying to make a tutorial mode that's both accessible and in-depth enough and they'll all kind of been a miss. Most of them either end up just being a series of text walls or just brush up the surface of what the game actually is. Genuinely, the best attempts I've seen are Guilty Gear Xrd and them fighting herds that basically took the concept but added some parts of the story modes that acts as a secondary tutorial as well. So the best I can think of is still that same concept, but I'm counting on you to give me your ideas in the comment section below. All I do know is that for character combo tries, they should update them very often, plus have the strive functionality of player submitted combo trials. A training mode now, and I want all of the good features for it. Frame data, special gauges, online training possible, and more, the most possible. A mod feature that is worth naming is the replay rewind function plus R added. It lets you take control of one moment of your replay of an actual match and lets you train from there. This is a modern must-have, so I'm stealing it. But you get the gist, just a solid training mode overall. Now let's go to survival. It's a mode that we often forget, but people that are into it will whine about it for years if it's not there. So let's fit them well. Let's separate it in two versions. In one, it's just the classic survival fight after fights mode. In the second, the player can buy buffs similar to this in streaming mode. Next up, let's get into everything that is personalization with a gallery. I touched it upon with the streaming mode rewards, but here are the things you'll be able to find in the gallery. The art gallery. Here you'll find official unlockable artworks and both the 2D version of the streaming background and the unlockable overlay layouts I mentioned before. The latter are used to get a new UI for the game and are themed after the actual layouts of the talent stream. But in the gallery you'll be able to see them in full form just like on the VTuber stream. You'll also be able to see all the generic and character-specific interactions and intros, because yes, this game will have special intros. Not only within teams, but also between characters in opposing teams. I'm tired of the characters interacting on the same copy-pasted animation, or just idle and talk to each other. Only a couple of devs still put efforts in their intros nowadays. You'll also obviously be able to see the opening and the ending for the talents you beat arcade mode with. Now to go back to backgrounds, you'll also be able to use them in the next mode, idle viewing mode. You'll be able to make your Oshi pose on diverse stages and in the 3D version of the backgrounds you unlocked. You'll be able to change outfits amongst the one you unlocked too. Next up in the gallery is the music studio. You'll be able to listen freely to the default songs plus the ones you unlock by playing. The focus on music of Hololive is prominent, so it's important we can build as much as we can a proper jukebox here. The goal would be to fill it as much as possible of the talent's music as the time goes by. You'll also be able to customize which song will play during your character's 3 bars super here. Finally, a side note about unlockables. Every single official outfit that exists before the game's release should be in the game, and you should be able to get them just by playing the game. The only outfits that should be DLC are the ones that are released after the original game, or some specific ones like MV outfits or promo collabs ones that would necessitate money to recoup the cost of being allowed to use them or something like that. And this rule applies overall to any unlockable in the game. By the way, every unlockable you get by playing solo mode you can also get by playing online only, except they all be towards the end of the list of rewards for playing online. So you'll have to play a lot of matches if you don't want to play any solo modes. It's an alternative for people that are allergic to single players in fighting games. Speaking of online, let's get into it. I touched upon Versus being tied to the online mode earlier, because in your perfect Hololive fighting game, even if the collab/solo format is the main focus, you'll be able to play other forms of team fights. Since the game is thought to also be playable as a 1 versus 1, it can actually adopt almost any team format. The game will have a 3 versus 3 KOF style mode, a 2 or 3 versus 1 super strong character at once dramatic battle mode, and a 2 versus 2 all at once on screen. And the catch is, all these modes will be playable online. Too many fighting games have a lot of good ideas for goofy and fun alternative versus modes like this, but kept it online only, and these modes, as fun as they actually are, end up being forgotten forever after a few months, or kept in a very niche secret community that nobody ever hears about. But this system can perfectly fix that. And piggy riding on that point, for a fighting game, it's very important to not split the fan base. So in addition to crossplay, the game will have a multiple modes queue system. You'll be able to pick among the game modes I talked about earlier and choose the mode you'd like to queue up for at the same time. This kind of system has been in FPSs like Call of Duty for decades now. I remember queuing for the last Titan standing and the live fire at the same time in Titanfall 2. But fighting games never caught up on that until only recently with Multiversus. If some game modes are way more popular than others, then let it be. Let the players dictate which modes they want to play. And more importantly, let the players have fun. In the same way of thinking, the intended ranked mode at the beginning will be the solo/collab one, but if another mode becomes more popular, I see no reasons why to not give this mode a ranked mode as well. Both will still be queuable with all the other modes at the same time. Again, in addition to this, the queue will work while you are playing any other solo modes. So if you want to queue up for one mode that doesn't have that big of a player base, you're not stuck watching a dumb searching screen, or you are not stuck in a training mode forever. But wait, there's more! All of the not ranked team modes that don't have all the players playing at once would still be playable with each character of a team being played by one different player. Very similar to DBFZ's Party Battle mode. For people that don't want to deal with this multi-people shenanigans, there will be a setting to not play against them. By the way, there are no lobbies when it comes to playing with strangers. You just have to press one big play button that makes you go through the queue system as to not split the player base again. As someone that played GBVS on PS4 a lot and in Europe, I can't tell you enough about how much a queue for a ranked plus lobby plus room triple threat system can be bad for the health of a game, especially as the community size shrinks over the years. It's confusing for new players and nobody knows where to go, and people miss each other every time because they think nobody's online. It's a real mess. However, when you want to play with friends, you can open a private room and play with them by inviting them. This interface can be used in two ways. You can either have a simple text interface menu or a Your Room mode, which is the default. This would be very similar to Axis lobbies. Yes, the good ones. You can move around using a small version of a talent as an avatar. The room is customizable with backgrounds and objects you unlocked by playing the game. And of course, for that online infrastructure to actually work, you need a solid netplay infrastructure. And this is why you need rollback netcode. I think a server-based rollback netcode similar to Multiversities will be the best option, since this game would allow a lot more than just two persons fighting at once. Of course, you'll have also all the option to filter the connections by connection quality, by area, Wi-Fi indicator, etc. Everything to make the best online experience possible. And we're done! Yes, that represents a lot of content, but this is a dream game, so let me dream. But also, it's not completely unrealistic. Sure, this would require a ton of work to realize, but it is possible to make it happen. Nothing I talked about wouldn't be possible by a team with a solid budget and time to craft the game. Anyway, let me know what kind of content you would like to see in our perfect Hololive fighting game by writing in the comment section below. After all, this is only one sort of perfect Hololive fighting game content, and perfection has many faces. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe and turn the bell, because next week is a heavy hitter. We'll finally talk about the roster of the perfect Hololive fighting game. See ya!
春夏秋冬連れて